Hello, everybody. Hello, happy Sunday. We are almost to the end of June. It has been a fabulous month, not only in the Daily Antidote of Song, but in the world of weather, at least here in the area near me. I'm super, super glad to see all of you here today and hope that everyone here is going to be able to get out into the world when we are done singing today and do something that has to do with, I don't know, maybe taking a deep breath or riding a bicycle or smiling at a friend, maybe even not masked at this point. Stay healthy, everyone, because of course the times are tumultuous and we don't ever know what's happening next. So I'm super excited to see all of these smiles. Everybody, please say hi to Facebook Live today. Welcome to the Daily Antidote of Song, the very last day of our Archive Challenge week. We've had a great week with Steve Winnick and Jennifer Cutting as they have shepherded us through an amazing body of work in the archive, songs, photos, sound clips, documents. It's been really great. And we're going to miss them, but don't worry. We hope they will be back in September for another one of these fabulous weeks. I want to welcome, besides everyone on Facebook, I want to welcome everyone who's come here today to join us in this room. So hello, of course, to Aaron Geyer, who's running the tech for us today. Hello to Joe Hickerson, who's going to be singing for us today. And to Steve Winnick, and of course, the archive cat, Figgy, who is here for the day. Hello, Figgy. Hello to Rick Pagliari in Vermont. Nice to see you. So glad you're here. One of our song leaders who we originally met through an Archive Challenge week. Hello, Jody. Nice to have you today. And Deli, hello, coming in from Maryland. Hi, Susan in Ohio. Nice to see you. And hello, Jay. Nice to see you. Glad you've joined us today. Hello to, I think that's Brian still connecting to audio. Hi, Jazzbeer. Nice to have you. Hello, Christiana and Bob. We're glad you're here today, coming in from Rockville. Annette in California, hello. Peter and Janet in Toronto, our best percussive team over there, coming in from the other side of, the top end of our country. Hello to Trish in Victoria, nice to see you. And hello to Shari, nice to have you here, coming in, I think, from New Hampshire, and Trish, of course, from Victoria. Hello to Susan in Seattle. Hello to Hindi in Toronto, another one who's up there on top of our country, not the top end of our country. Hi, Bonnie in Ohio, in Idaho. Nice to see you. Storm in Massachusetts. Hi, Sue Sean. Glad you're here today. Carolyn in Idaho. Nice to see you. Did I say Bonnie in Idaho, or did I say? Yeah, Bonnie in Idaho, and Carolyn in Idaho, and Kathy not in Idaho, and a motorcycle going by. Kathy in Virginia, hello. Renata in Wisconsin, glad to see you back again. We've missed you. Glad you're here. Kathy in upstate New York, hello. Michelle and Steve, glad you guys have joined again today. Great to see you. Hello, Ann in Maryland. Karen in Oregon, glad you're back. Nice to see you. Caroline in DC. Fred in DC. Barry Galiff of the very, very famous Daily Antidote painting. Nice to see you today. We may have some surprises up our sleeve for you guys very soon. Tom in Victoria, great to see you. Beautiful background. I love it. The ever-changing, beautiful background. Kevin Ennis, we're glad you're here, coming in from New Hampshire. Everybody wave to Kevin. He can't quite see us yet, but there he goes. Gone? Okay. Who's that? Emily, nice to see you. Glad you're here today. And Hoda, we're really glad you're here also. Sid in Victoria, hello. Scott, nice to have you with us today. Nancy, coming in from Vermont. And I think Dan in Virginia, and still Kevin in New Hampshire, and folks off video, Amanda, Barbara, Sandra, Luby, Lynn, and Jane. Thank you so much, gang, for being here. And anybody I missed, of course, a giant hello, a welcome, and a deep breath. Everybody ready? I am going to turn the floor over to one of my most favorite, most fabulous partners, collaborators in presenting amazing music out into the universe, Steve Winnick, who I met some number of years ago. Maybe it's even 20?
16, 17 years ago. Yeah.
17 years ago. And our first project, we were working on the StoryCorps project when they were just starting out with their mobile units, and they had an opening on the Library of Congress plaza for the StoryCorps mobile units. And it's been an amazing bunch of collaborations since then. Steve, I'm so glad you're here representing the Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. Welcome, and take it away.
Well, thank you, Jojo. We're calling Jo Rossi Jojo today, which is her other nickname because, of course, our artist is Joe Hickerson, so we've got two Joes. So thank you, Jojo. To everyone else, I am Steve Winnick. I'm a Folklife specialist at the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. And we're now at the very end of our fourth Archive Challenge Partnership Week on the Daily Antidote of Song. So thank you all for joining us. Sadly, my partner in crime, Jennifer Cutting, is at a memorial service today for our good friend, the fantastic singer Grace Griffith. For those of you who knew Grace, for many years she suffered from Parkinson's disease and she passed away a couple of weeks ago. So I hope nobody minds if I dedicate my appearance on today's Daily Antidote to Grace Griffith. For any of you who did know Grace, there will be a more public tribute in the form of a concert at a later date. So this is just a little private gathering, which is still observing some limited COVID protocols. So there's really only, maybe a few people there. With that sad news imparted, I want to turn to happier things and particularly to today's wonderful guest. Today's guest, Joe Hickerson, is a fantastic singer and song leader, but possibly best known for being the head of the Archive of Folk Song at the Library of Congress for 35 years. So, Joe, we will talk more about the song and about you after we sing, but our brief is to get to the song first. So, if you want to show us your t-shirt and then teach us the song and sing it with us. There is Joe's Archive of Folk Song, original Archive of Folk Song t-shirt created by folklorist Betty Belenas many years ago. Joe, I'm turning it over to you to teach the song.
Bright morning stars are rising. 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 Day is a breaking in my soul. Let's go through it once, line by line. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. All right, try that. Bright morning stars are rising. 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 And finally, day is a breaking in my soul. Day is breaking in my soul. And the verses follow, and they're the same pattern except for one line, which I will line out. Let's start with bright morning stars are rising. 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 Day is a breaking in my soul. Oh, where are our dear mothers? 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 Day is a breaking in my soul. And they are down in the valley praying. 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 Day is breaking in my soul. Oh, where are our dear fathers? 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 Day is a breaking in my soul. Some have gone to heaven shouting. 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 Day is a breaking in my soul. Oh, where are our dear children? 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 Day is breaking in my soul. They are down in the valley singing. 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 Day is a breaking in my soul. Bright morning stars. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Day is breaking in my soul. Bright morning stars.
Wow, thank you so much, Joe. That was beautiful.
Thanks for
Um,
singing along.
an amazing song, and so appropriate too on this day when I mentioned Grace and her having passed away, and just this, the question, where are our dear mothers and where are our dear fathers? Beautiful, beautiful song from Joe Hickerson. So as I mentioned, Joe Hickerson was the head of, well, he worked at the Library of Congress for many years, and he was the head of the Archive of Folk Song, the Archive of Folk Culture, as it was later called. And that is the archive where Jennifer and I now work. So it's wonderful to see Joe here. And, this daily Antidote of Song collaboration that we do of getting people to sing our songs is really an extension of the work that the archivists at the Library of Congress have always done, all the way back to the 1920s when the archive was founded. And Joe was no exception to that. I'm sure he can remember many times when he passed information about songs on to artists who did their own popular interpretations of those songs. Can you think of a particularly fun example of that, Joe, from your days at the library?
Well, let's see. Hey,
Well, we can actually talk about it from another perspective with Joe, because many years ago, when he was in his own group, before even coming to the Library of Congress, he was in a group called the Folksmiths, and they were the first group to do a very popular song from out of the archive on one of their albums. Um, tell us about Kumbaya a little bit, Joe.
Kumbaya. Well, actually, Tony Solitan will figure into my story about Bright Morning Stars Are Rising, but Tony Solitan was an excellent song finder long before I got started on it. For example, in 1954, he discovered and taught to Pete Seeger and the world Michael rowed the boat ashore. And just 2 or 3 years later, he ran across Kumbaya and started singing it around. That's where we learned it at Oberlin College in 1957. And uh, it, it was later that it was discovered that it goes back. The earliest known, so far, versions are here, there, at the archive of folk song, folk culture of the American Folklife Center. 1930, 1936, 1926, a wax
1926,
monitor,
that's right. Yeah.
26, made by Robert Winslow Gordon, my hero, the founding father of the archive of American folk song.
That's right, Joe's distinguished predecessor. So you were going to say that Tony also figures into your story about Bright Morning Stars and how you came across that. So tell us about that as well.
Yes, I first heard the song 2 successive summers at the Fox Hollow Folk Festival in Petersburg, northeastern New York State. 1966 and 1967 on the main stage, a group of four wonderful singers, all good friends of mine, Tony Solitan and Robin Christensen and their respective wives, the Kazoy sisters, Irene and Ellen. The four of them sang this Bright Morning Stars Are Rising. And the second time in 1967, I went up to Tony and I asked him, where can I find that song? And he said, go to Ruth Crawford Seeger's book, American Folk Songs for Christmas. And he said, in fact, uh, and in the front of on her books, in that book, she gives her sources under acknowledgments. They're very detailed, very specific. And he asked me reference question. Yes, he said, maybe could you check the original recording? Maybe there are more verses, and look around. Maybe there are other versions of this. Well, I went back to the library. I have my own copy of the book, actually. And sure enough, the source, she claims, was a field recording made in September 10, 1937, by Alan and Elizabeth Lomax for the Archive of American Folk Song at the Library of Congress. The place was Harlan, Kentucky. And the singer was given was G period D period vowel. And only relatively recently have I discovered through having got in touch with a great great nephew of Mr. Vowell, his full name, Granderson David Vowell. Isn't that a fine name?
That's an amazing name. And Joe just mentioned that to me yesterday, that he discovered the full first name of Mr. Vowell was Granderson. And I figured with the name Granderson, which is a very unusual name, it's likely that I'll be able to find out more information than we knew at the archive. And so I did, this was just yesterday, so I did a very brief survey of internet resources, and I actually found a picture of Granderson David Vowell with his wife, Cora, and his son, William. So that is Mr. Vowell in the civilian suit, yeah. So that is what Mr. Vowell looked like, and that's his wife, as I say, next to him, and his son on the other end. So because of Joe's continuing research after, years and years of singing this song, we're still finding out more about the song. And of course, now that we know his name is Granderson, we can find out a lot more about him just through the amazing genealogy resources that we have at the library, and also ones that are now publicly available on the internet. GD is not that much to go on, though of course we knew Harlan, Kentucky as well as a starting point. So thank you so much, Joe, for your research then and your continuing research now, which is still giving us great sort of tidbits
Well, and
about
it's been
these
helped
songs.
by descendants of G.D. Vowell, not only the great great nephew, but uh, I heard from a son in California named David Vowell. Then I met a David Vowell at the John C. Campbell Folk School. I said, "Gee, Vowell, yes." He said, "My favorite name in the archive at the Library of Congress." Oh, you must mean uh, G.D. Vowell. And he said the full name was Gideon
Oh,
David
interesting.
Vowell, but that was in error. And
Yeah.
then I heard from a granddaughter also. People do. He had 3 children. He had 6 children, and among them they had 6 children each. Yes, there's the book that Ruth Crawford Seeger transcribed very accurately. The song "American Folk Songs for Christmas."
Yeah, Ruth Crawford Seeger was so good at those transcriptions that she was often employed by the people in the archive, by Alan Lomax and his father John A. Lomax, to do their transcriptions. And so many of the books, the early books that are materials from the archive, those transcriptions are by Ruth Crawford Seeger. And it's very frequently those transcriptions that actually people were covering when they made their version. So, when Aaron Copland created the hoedown out of Bonaparte's retreat, we have no evidence that he ever heard the field recording. We know he heard some of our other field recordings, and he avowed that he preferred to work from transcriptions anyway because he was writing the music down, so it was a shorthand for him to get someone else's transcription. So we assume that he probably worked from Ruth Crawford Seeger's transcription of that, and there are many other examples of that. So that book is a great thing for us to see. Thanks, Annette, for holding that up, because that helps people get a sense of how these songs got out there into the world, more than just being recordings in the archive. Of course, back in the days when the Lomaxes made these discs, they just remained as discs, literally, instantaneous discs in the archive, and they were copied if and when that became necessary for some other purpose. But then later on, the library went through a process of copying all of them onto reference copies so that people can listen to them without degrading the original disc. And so we have reel-to-reel tapes of some of them, and then most of them are now in the process of being digitized if they're not digitized already. So if you come to the library now, which is just becoming possible again on Monday, we are opening the doors to researchers by appointment only. So if you make an appointment and you come to hear some of these recordings, in most cases we'll be serving you digital files. In some cases we'll be serving you reel-to-reel tapes. But in this case, it's definitely digital, and it's actually online in several places, and so we can actually hear Granderson David Vowell sing Bright Morning Stars Are Rising. So let's give that a listen.
Bright morning stars are rising. 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 Day is a breaking in my soul. Oh.
So that is what Mr. Vowell sounded like singing the song. And as you can see, Joe does a pretty good job of channeling Mr. Vowell's great delivery of this song. So, Joe, another thing that's interesting is you mentioned yesterday that you actually wrote out a four-part harmony transcription of this song for people to use in singing it. Talk about your process of arranging it for, more formal presentations.
Well, it's the only time I ever did this.
There it
In
is.
1968, and I was very heavy along with some other people in Washington D.C. singing shape note, sacred harp, Christian harmony, and that sort of thing. So it occurred to me that we were driving to her grandparents in Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania, and she would sing the melody, and I would kind of hum a bass, a treble, that's a soprano, alto. So when I got there, I actually wrote these down. Took a little while. I'd never done it before, and so I made this. That's not my writing. I got
Mm-hmm.
That's much better writing than mine, but it's four parts with the treble, the soprano, the alto, and the tenor, which is the melody, and the bass, which I sometimes think is the best part because I sing bass. But at one point, uh, one anecdote, a group of us were up at one of these weekend retreats. This was of the Albany area, pick and singing gathering. They called it Gotta Get Gone. And Saturday night after the concert, we all gathered together trying to keep warm at the home of Bob and Evelyn Beers in their fireplace room. And somebody suggested Bright Morning Stars Are Rising. So we all started to sing it, and it was immediately apparent that there were two entirely different versions going. The version that came from Cambridge, Massachusetts, spread out from Tony Solitan,
Mm-hmm.
Irene, which was slower, extra measure, and ours, you know, and it occurred to me, what it led to was one Sunday afternoon, my wife Lynn and I went over to our neighbors and good friends, the Dildines, John and Jenny. John was a professional sound recording engineer, and he recorded the four parts. I sang the bass, Mary Helen Shortridge sang the alto, Lynn, my wife, and Jenny Dildine sang the treble or soprano, and G.D. Vowell on the recording sang the melody, the tenor. And we did it several takes because it's very difficult to follow someone you can't see, especially who might be a little bit irregular in their musical habits with pauses and whatnot. So we made some copies and sent them out to people as Christmas presents.
That's great. Nowadays, with editing software, you can much more easily match those changes in time. You can iron out those irregularities. Back in those days, it wasn't that easy to do that stuff. You can just move the notes. So we had a couple of questions. One of which is, do you know where Vowel got the song? Is it in the Shape Note hymnals, or what's the source?
Well, I have never, and I've not discovered anybody else who has ever found anything earlier.
Yeah,
There are
interesting.
later versions, and by the way, I've never heard a bad version of this song.
Wonderful.
Never heard a bad version. No,
So,
please
yeah,
go out and look.
yeah, exactly.
You'll
Everyone
find
should
an earlier version, and it's got to be out there. So.
everyone should look. So we've had in the chat already a link to the archival version, and that is at the Association for Cultural Equity, which is the foundation that Alan Lomax himself founded while he was still around. And it's a wonderful website where they have a lot of the Alan Lomax recordings. You will also want to look on loc.gov for a lot of the Alan Lomax recordings that were made while he was at the library. So currently, there's sort of two main places to find Alan Lomax's field recordings, and those are they, as they say. So look for those. And another thing that you can look for on the Library of Congress website to get more of the great stories of Joe Hickerson is there's an oral history with Joe that Jennifer Cutting is the interviewer, and you can find the actual oral history interview went on for like 5 hours, but there's 1 hour of it was done publicly in front of an audience, and that hour is actually online, so you can watch it's sort of the condensed version of Joe Hickerson's career great stories from the archive. So we're popping that into the chat as well. And one last thing. So we've mentioned, of course, that the whole point of these Archive Challenge weeks is to get great singers and song leaders to interpret an item from the archive. And that's something, as we've said all week, that's been going on since the archive was founded in the 1920s. People have been taking this material and making their own versions of our songs. And we want that to continue. And so there's also a blog online that sort of gives you some hints as to how you can take the archive challenge from your home and just share your creation to your social media with a tag that will allow us to find it. And if it's a version that fits in somewhere with our own programming, we might even share it out on the official library social media. So that would be nice. So we popped that into the chat as well. And so we have come to the point where we're going to ask Joe to reprise the song, if you would. And, one thing that might be fun, if you want to sing the first verse to get us all singing, and then if you want to switch to the bass part and let other people sing the melody, that might be fun. But use your own judgment, obviously. Do it however you want. So Joe Hickerson again with Bright Morning Stars.
I might do it. Let me just say one other thing.
Yeah, please do.
One other thing that has impressed me and that I have felt so joyous about being able to work at the Library of Congress archive of folk song was when somebody would come in looking with a story that years ago somebody came with some strange equipment and recorded their grandparents, or for Native American groups, the tribal elders of generations before. And then within 10 minutes, they've got earphones on. And they're hearing people they haven't heard in years. They're hearing people they've never heard. I've seen Native Americans weeping, listening to their forebears they've never heard before.
Yeah, it's a powerful experience that we've had many times as well. Most recently, we actually had that experience with the family of Theodore Roll, who was a Bahamian American in Florida, recorded in the 1930s. And T. Roll was the uncle of the family's mother, who was too elderly to travel, but she was still alive. So she was in Florida, but she had been raised by him, and so he was sort of like the grandparent, the grandfather of all of the people who came to the archive, and they'd just heard all of these stories about T-Roll, and they'd heard that he'd been recorded, back in the 30s, and so they came and they were actually able to listen to him singing and playing the accordion, and he was just an exuberant character from his singing. So that's just one example, but as Joe says, with indigenous and Native American folks, it is very common for them to come in and find recordings of their own grandparents singing, and often singing songs that nobody remembers now because the languages are being lost. And so these recordings are actually very helpful in teaching people their own languages again, because they were recorded back in a time when a lot more people knew the languages. So they're very great kind of moments for us, but also just in the continuity of history of these songs and of the communities that sang them. So thanks for bringing that up, Joe, because it's one of our favorite things as well.
Okay, let's go back to the song, and I will make a confession. I wrote the fifth and sixth verses, the two verses about the children. I added that in 1968. All right, and in the spirit of Granderson, David Fowle, let's go. Bright morning stars are rising. 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 Day is a breaking in my soul. Oh, where are our dear mothers? 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 Day is a breaking in my soul. They are down in the valley praying. 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 Day is a breaking in my soul. Oh, where are our dear fathers? 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 Day is a breaking in my soul. Some have gone to heaven shouting. 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 Day is breaking in my soul. Oh, where are dear children? Oh, where are our dear children? Oh, where are our dear children? Where are our dear children? Day is a breaking in my soul. They're down the valley singing. They are down in the valley singing. They are down in the valley singing. They are down in the valley singing. Day is breaking in my soul. Bright morning stars. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Day is a breaking in my soul. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joe. My gosh, what a wonderful song and a wonderful way to send us out into the world on a Sunday. So this was church for some of us, I guess, and others are going to go. So thank you so much for getting us started with such a wonderful song. So once again, everyone, Joe Hickerson, longtime reference librarian and then head of the archive at the American Folklife Center, and before that, the Archive of Folk Song within the library's music division. So Joe saw it all during his time at the library and spilled some of the beans in that oral history that we told you about that you can find online. So now I just want to thank so many people for making this Archive Challenge week come true. Obviously, Joe Hickerson once again. It's interesting because he is the final artist in this week, but also without some of the work that Joe did over all those years, I'm sure we wouldn't be doing this now. Or at least we wouldn't have that much to say because Joe found out so much about these songs that is, now in our subject files that when we want to find out about a song, we consult the aggregated knowledge of the Library of Congress, and a lot of that knowledge came from Joe's research and from Joe's wonderful brain. So thank you for making this possible, Joe. But we also want to thank the other Joe, JoJo, for all of her wonderful work this week. And we want to thank Aaron, and we want to thank Katie, all the people who helped with the tech. That was so important to be able to play those field recordings and see the pictures of the people from the past who sang these songs is such a blessing here on the Daily Antidote. So thanks to everyone who made that possible. We want to thank Busy Graham and Carpe Diem Arts for having this program and continuing it into this year. It's just wonderful to be able to do this. And finally, I guess from the personal perspective to the institutional, I would like to thank the American Folklife Center and the Library of Congress for employing me and Jennifer, and for allowing us to do this this wonderful program to as the previous Librarian of Congress, Dr. James Billington, used to like to say, getting the champagne out of the bottle. That was his favorite metaphor. So when you hear Jennifer say that, it's because for like 30 years that was the coming from the top at the Library of Congress. It's not the favorite turn of phrase of our current librarian, but it's ingrained in some of our memories for all those years. So thank you to everyone. And listen, thanks to everyone who is here listening in the room. I know we're going to have the goodbyes where you're all thanked and said goodbye to individually. I see on my little screen, which only has a few people, my good friend Rick Polari, who's another artist who's been here in the room. So thank you to Rick as well for his contributions. And thanks to everyone who's who's sung these songs. So I'm going to turn it over to JoJo and Aaron.
Thank you so much, Steve. That was such an amazingly beautiful thank you. I mean, you just really hit absolutely everybody, and it is so amazing to be able to do this. It just, for me.
You know who I forgot? I would like to thank the Association for Cultural Equity, the Alan Lomax Archive, for keeping so many of these recordings online. Alan Lomax wasn't the only collector, right, that we have in the archive, but he's the one that people go to again and again. Partly that's because his work was just so amazing and so foundational, but partly it's also because of the great work that the Association for Cultural Equity does in putting those recordings online, where even during a pandemic, people could find them. The library does that too, as I said, and we do have a lot of great recordings on the Library of Congress website, but the Association for Cultural Equity does a particularly good job with that. So thanks for letting me interrupt you, and thank one more person.
That's perfect. I love it. So I'm just going to say a couple quick notes that I hope I remember. One is I absolutely will have Joe back in this room again to sing with us again. It was so remarkable to have you here, Joe. And in all of my years at the library, you were one of my favorite walking around, amazing conversation out of nowhere guys. I loved seeing you so regularly there. Even I think you were retired when I was there. I don't even know or remember, and it didn't matter. You were still such a force. And I want to also just note that yesterday I think I promised yesterday some assets in the email, which I of course forgot to put in there. But I'm going to go ahead and do an asset email. Everything that we've seen this week, all the links, everything all in one email, so everybody can go ahead and explore whatever they want to more, especially if you didn't remember to save the chat or whatever. And then announcement number 3 is that we have some exciting weeks coming up. We're going to have a Peace Week coming up. That's PEACE. We're going to have a Change Week coming up. Lots of great artists who you know and love, plus some new folks. but I've actually moved them in the service of a week that we are going to have now. This next week coming up is going to be a Sweet Honey in the Rock week. They did a fabulous Juneteenth celebration that is still available for one more week. So they're going to come in the room, they're going to sing with us, they're going to talk about it, they're going to talk about Juneteenth, different singer every day, maybe a surprise with multiple singers on the last day. And I'm super excited. We've had a lot of fun with Sweet Honey in this room, and this is going to be a week dedicated just to them. So please join us for our Sweet Honey week. I want to thank everybody out there on Facebook Live for joining for this whole week and for always. And I can't wait to see you again in a few days. I'm now going to turn it over to Aaron for goodbyes. Thank you, Aaron.